welcome back. How's everyone doing? I see I actually just got a donation. Sunny Southpaw, thank you for the $5 donation. Let me check to see who's here right now. Cosma, Keith, hello. Welcome. See what other names I know. Ruchi Taka, Lola, Hot Girl Official. Wow, it's an honor to have an official hot girl in my stream. You don't see those every day. Miriam, Kai, welcome Kai. Nightbot, you're always saying the same things over and over again, but I still appreciate what you bring to the chat. Yoon, let's see. Bits, Shaystar, first time, nice. Let's see, anyone else? Okay, yeah, so as I promised, I left the donations from the last stream on the board the whole time I was gone in Korea. So they've been up here since May. But we got a new donation. I'm glad they erase. I was worried for a second, like, oh wait, is this going to be hard to erase? I do have some board cleaner, but I'd rather not use it. Okay. Yeah, first donation of the new season, Sunny Southpaw. Thank you. Thank you for the $5 donation. That will go toward food. I don't mean that as in I'm poor, but I mean, yeah, but that's not what I mean. It's because I'll share something with you. While I was gone in Korea, I didn't know this, but apparently right after I left to Korea, so this would have been the end of May, sometime then, my garage freezer, it's actually not the freezer, it was the outlet. Something caused my outlet that my garage freezer, I have a chest freezer, something shorted the outlet and it tripped. Now it's a GFCI outlet, so if you know what that means, you just reset it. It's not a big deal. However, it is a big deal when you kind of have to push the button to reset it, and that's hard to do when I'm thousands of miles away in Korea. So I didn't know that until I came back from Korea, and no one told me. The thing that did tell me that had happened was when I arrived home, I walked through my garage to get into my house, and the flies told me, actually, my fly's a bit rusty, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure from body language, you know, I kind of picked up that they were saying, hey, there's something wrong with your freezer. They're all hanging out there saying hi. They're not really what I want to see, though, when you come back from a long trip. So anyway, the short story is my entire freezer was destroyed. The food inside, hideous. I will not describe that for you. Use your imagination if you know what rotten meats, different types of meats smells like. And it was in there for at least a month like that, maybe 2 months, probably. The freezer itself was almost a complete write-off. I mean, I could buy a new freezer. They're not that expensive, a few $100, but it's the principle of it, right? You know, I lost the food, but I can't lose the war, even if I lose the battle. So I spent 2 weeks cleaning it out. Tried everything. Finally, I think I've got it like 95% where it doesn't smell anymore. Still a little bit of something, but it's not bad anymore. So I'm going to keep it as is. I think I'm okay with it now. But I did have to do a lot of stuff that I can't even talk about on YouTube because it's like professional cleaning stuff that I found on Reddit. Anyway, so I'm back from that. That was the most traumatic experience I've had, which is, I guess, not too bad of a life, right? The worst thing that's happened is I lost all my food. But I did have a lot of stuff in there. There was like $500 worth of food. So like almost a full visit to Costco. Anyway, oh, I see something red here. I see a donation, Glass Artist. Thank you, Glass Artist. That's very generous of you. 선생님, 미국에 잘 돌아오셨나요? Food Fund. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was just I appreciate it, but yeah, it was pretty traumatic because I had gotten some stuff. I had actually just done a Costco trip before I left because my Costco membership expired. So right before it expired, I'm like, oh, let's get all the stuff we need for the next 2 years, right? Get the bacon pack, got to get the Hebrew national hot dogs. Those are the best ones. Yeah, I'd say those are a little bit above the Nathans for me, the Hebrew nationals. Got to get that tempura shrimp, frozen shrimp, all the good stuff. And then, yeah, about 5 to 10, a little more, maybe 10 pounds of like various meat, like different types of pork and chicken and stuff like that. So it's really sad. However, at the same thing at same time, I didn't mention this, but we actually have a kimchi refrigerator in our garage, which if you are hearing about a kimchi refrigerator for the first time and you like kimchi and you keep it around a lot, get one. They are fantastic. It's basically, it's just a refrigerator, but it's dedicated to kimchi. And the way they're designed is better for your kimchi. It keeps it at a better humidity, a better temperature, and the best part is it keeps it separate from all your other food. So you don't have to worry about like triple bagging it in a Ziploc to not get kimchi smell over your other food. And you can use it for more than just kimchi. You can use it for, like we use it for freeze-dried peppers, like little like anchovies and shrimp, the little freeze-dried stuff you use when cooking it. You can use it for like seasonings or sauces that you don't want to smell up your refrigerator. And then of course, every year my wife makes 10 kilograms of kimchi, which lasts us most of the year. That was also connected to the same outlet. So unfortunately, we got a little bit too, kimchi is supposed to kind of ferment. It got a little too fermented and the ferment started changing colors, if you know what I mean. So we lost all that too. But fortunately, because it wasn't meat, that was a bit easier to clean. So the refrigerator is fortunately okay. The containers are good, but I can't say the same for the freezer. That was just a write-off completely. Except I can't write it off because it's not a business expense. I don't know what the IRS would think if I start writing off like kimchi refrigerator. I need it for my work, right? Upside, the electricity was off for the freezer. Yes. You know what? I'm not gonna tell you the other stuff. There's actually a couple other things. I'm not gonna tell you them, but I'll just say the answer to your question is I did not save any money. In fact, it's more expensive, but I'm not gonna mention. Maybe bug me another time. I don't feel like it today. Helen says, this reminds me of the time I opened some expired cream cheese. Cream cheese? That's gotta be old because cream cheese typically just dries, right? It'll get dry for a long time, for months, and it's still edible, just like cheese. It's still edible until it'll then get moldy. Soup. That's a good one. Soup. What I really recommend is, I don't have space in my house to keep another fridge. That's okay. Yeah, the only reason I can is because we have a garage where I can put my car, which is very nice. And there is room in there for a kimchi refrigerator. But if you don't have an extra refrigerator space, you could get a small, like a drink refrigerator and use that for your kimchi. It'll still work. There's some benefits though of the actual kimchi refrigerator. Like they're always top loading, so you don't have to worry about the smell coming out when you open it. It's also lower electricity bill to refrigerate. If you open it up and close it 100 times a day, you're not using that much electricity because it stays cool. But a regular refrigerator will do it. But yeah, if you don't have space, don't worry about it. Okay. It was opened Philadelphia. Yeah, I understand. You know what I really like are if you have a Trader Joe's and if they stock it, I really like their shelf-stable cream. Fantastic, because I believe it's like it's the ultra pasteurized cream, so it's not going to expire, and it has a shelf life of like 6 months past when you buy it, and it tastes exactly identical to cream that you use in cooking. The only difference would be is if you're like drinking, because like the boxed milk tastes a little bit different than the fresh milk, but when you're cooking with it, it's identical, and it lasts 6 months where it's completely fresh. But I've held on to that stuff for an extra year. And it's still usable. It just separates a bit. So I recommend that stuff if you've got a Trader Joe's nearby. For anyone coming into the stream and is like, what's Billy talking about? Why are we talking about old food, broken freezers, and cream cheese and stuff? Well, that's because you are early to the stream. Welcome. We'll start the class right at 2 o'clock. Before we get started, though, I do want to give you a disclaimer that the lesson we're going to be doing today, although it's beginner lesson, it's beginner level. Don't let that fool you. I have never done, at least not since doing these live streams, I haven't done any lessons where it's just, here's this one form, see you later, or here are the 2 forms you need, bye. This is one of the longest lessons I've taught in a very long time. It's 2 entire pages of outlines. And then there's an additional 16 to 20. Anyway, there's more sentences on the worksheet on Patreon if you're one of my wonderful Patreon supporters. There is a ton of stuff that I need to cover today. I'm going to try to make it quick, but it's going to be a very long, in-depth lesson about what we're doing. I'm not just going over the 2 forms, which I'm sure most of you already know. There's more for you if you stick around, I promise. And then even if you do know these 2 forms, you're probably going to learn something you didn't know about them as well. So that's what I always try to do whenever we do our classes. Even if it's a beginner lesson, don't worry, I've got you covered. You're going to master the beginner topic if you've already learned it. And if you've never learned it, you'll have a decent grasp about how it works. I was gone for a week. My fridge went out, chicken in the freezer, and the smell was horrible. Yes. Yeah, this was chicken, pork, and beef. And they all decided to have a party because they were in the same box frozen. But when they melted, I didn't know chicken was a liquid when it was melted, you guys. I never knew this. I thought it would stay solid. I guess it's a liquid. Okay, Glass Artist said, possible side note to help. When a forest fire came through and knocked my power off, I lost all the food in my chest freezer. I was able to file a loss claim through my homeowner's insurance. Interesting. This, however, I believe it wasn't any sort of disaster that I know of. It might have been a power outage, but it was whatever happened, something tripped the GFCI outlet. Now, to prevent this in the future, because I'm not, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, I really need to just replace my GFCI outlet. So I did that. I replaced the outlet. It was the original that came with the house. That was like, I don't know, $25 and one trip to Home Depot and like 5 minutes of to swap out the outlet. That was no big deal. And I also purchased a remote temperature monitor kit. And that way I can see on my phone the temperature of my freezer now. I also, it came with like a couple of them. So I put one in the main refrigerator in my house, as well as I put one in the chest freezer that I have. And it sends me an alert if it ever goes up above, I think I set it to like 2 degrees Fahrenheit or something, because it's always like negatives for that. So that way, in case I ever have it happen again and the freezer starts to get a little bit warm, I'll immediately, if I'm away, I can call up my family and be like, hey, can you go quickly and push the GFCI outlet, or can you check, or if there's nothing I can do, can you quickly grab some food out of there and save it? So that's at least to prevent the same thing from happening again. But, it is an expensive lesson, but these are sorts of lessons that happen in life that are much more difficult than learning about negative verbs. Kai says, Kai said beginner stuff is only beginner because it's foundational. It does. It all adds on. Kai says, I always enjoy the lives on grammar because a lot of the time they give me a better way to think that sticks in my brain. I hope that this will be one of those lessons as well. Yeah, it was. I was impressed. Okay, so plug your ears for like just 1 minute if you don't want to hear something gross. It's not that bad, but still. I had bought from the grocery store a bag. It was a 2-pound bag of pre-made fajita mix, like beef, vegetables, rice, literally everything except the cheese and the sauce and the tortillas. And I had bought it at the grocery store because normally it was like a $22 bag for 2 pounds. And that was a fair price, I think. It was on sale for $1. $1. Why? Because it was expiring in a week. But if you know anything about frozen food, processed frozen food at the grocery store, that don't expire. That's got like no expiration date. Sure, 5-10 years later, the meat's gonna be all tough and stuff, but safe? No, it's fine. So I knew if I bought this now, I could safely eat this in a few months and it's gonna taste the exact same. So I bought a bag of that, just one to try it. My wife and we tried it for lunch. Fantastic. Like, that was good. Like a really nice mix. I wouldn't buy it for the normal price. $22 is a bit expensive for one meal. for something you're still making at home. Went back to the grocery store, bought 2 more bags, ate both of those. Fantastic. I'm like, okay, this is the stuff. Before this sells out, I'm going to buy some more because when I get back from Korea, I'm going to be really hungry. And this is a, healthy big meal I can have while I'm here at the house. I'm going to be jet lagged. So I bought 3 bags, put those in the freezer. Do you know the term spicy pillow? Like when a lithium battery expands until like just before it'll explode, but it's like completely puffed. It was basically like that, like those cheap party balloons that you buy at the dollar store that are like way overfilled. Like your kid, it was, I felt unsafe picking those out of the freezer. I was like, this, if I breathe on this, if I poke this, it's going to pop. I was like really careful. I took those out separately and threw those in the dumpster. I'm like, I'm not even putting these with the other food in the bag. I had a big trash bag. That's pretty much it. That's not detailed though. If you actually want details, I can tell you later after the lesson, but they're actually horrifying. So I haven't shared with you any of the actual fun details. Okay. Anyway, we'll start the class in just 5 minutes. Thanks for listening to my rant about my freezer. Yeah, you're good. It wasn't that bad, but still, someone might be eating that right now, and I don't want to spoil their meal because it was really good, and I feel sad because of how good they were. $1 is cheapest in my country. Yeah, it was cheap. I mean, I like finding deals on stuff. Normally, though, if I'm gonna cook it myself at the house, it better be less than $10 a meal. Like if I'm making it, right? If I buy it from a restaurant, get it to go, I'm okay spending $10 or so for a meal. I don't do it every day, every maybe once a week or something. But if I'm cooking, I mean, I can cook big meals for just a few bucks, right? Today's lunch, we made sandwiches with bacon, mushrooms, and mango. And I think I probably paid like less than $1 in ingredients for each one, just because it's like, bread, sandwich meat, cheese, the bacon was on sale. So, but if I'm going to pay $10 for a meal at home or $20 for a meal at home, that better be good. That better be like a ton. So anyway, I'll find something else cool on sale, I'm sure later, but oops. What's your favorite fruit? Asks Kai. That's a good question. That's like something my kid would ask me. What's your favorite fruit, Dad? Like, I don't know. I think I really like halabong. And I'm not just saying that because I'm into Korea and stuff like that. It's actually not originally a Korean fruit. It's the Japanese variety of a mandarin orange that was imported into Korea, but exploded in popularity, especially in Jeju. So it's kind of seen as like a Korean thing, even though it's... Anyway, halabong's great. I also really like the Asian pear, but the big ones, not the ones you get in the most grocery stores in the US, but like the actual ones in Korea, which are very big and crisp. Those are good. I like strawberries. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of simple, but I really like a good strawberry. And I'm from California, so we have the best strawberries I've ever had in my life. Like better than, I don't care what other strawberries you got. Like we have strawberry festivals here. And if you get them right when they're in season, they're dirt cheap, they're gigantic, they're bright red and like going to a purplish color, and they are juicy. They are so good. Like perfect strawberries, like from a dream. I'm like, if I'm doing this with my hand right now, this is how big some of the strawberries are. And I'm not actually exaggerating to make it seem like, I caught a big fish or anything. Like this big, like not a baseball, but like a tennis ball size almost. And the whole thing is good, like a really good strawberry. So if you search like giant California strawberry online, that's not an oddity. Like those are pretty common, I'd say, on sale. Now that's not the normal size you'll find, but I do see them every year. But yeah, I like fruit. I think fruit's pretty good. What about you, Kai? What's your favorite fruit? While the teacher was away, I watched the lessons I hadn't heard yet from previous classes. Nice. Okay, strawberries, green apples, and cantaloupe. Never had a mango before. What? Oh, I guess that makes sense. They're not going to be sending you like expensive fruits like mangoes down in the basement at Adobe. But the other ones, okay, strawberries, green apples, and cantaloupe. Yeah, green apples. I am not a huge fan of green apples. I like them. I'll eat them. I think I appreciate them more when they are with, like, you dip them in caramel, like the candied apples. Those ones I like. Plain green apples, if someone cuts them for me, gets the apple core and slices them up, then I think I'll have them too. But they're just like, I don't know, when I eat them, it just makes my mouth pucker up a little too much. Kind of like eating lemon. And I like lemon in my food, and I like green apples in salad. It's just annoying for me to eat, so I usually don't buy them. Oxnard, yep, Oxnard Strawberry Festival. Although you actually don't need to go to the Strawberry Festival anymore. It's kind of gone to trash. Sorry, I'm not insulting the strawberries. They're fine, but the festival stuff around it is kind of like, it's not what it was before. Now it's more just like promoting the tourism and going to buy the strawberries there. But the actual strawberries, you can get them literally anywhere. You don't have to go to Oxnard to get them. Just drive around the area. You'll find some people with booths saying strawberries, and they'll have the big boxes. Just stop your car anywhere, grab a box, and go. But yeah. What do people do at Strawberry Festival? Literally nothing. You don't go. Don't go to Strawberry Festival. It's just the time that they usually spend money promoting strawberries, but it doesn't mean you're going to get those good strawberries if you do the festival stuff. It's just that here, like, it used to be a thing when I was a kid where that was the time where you would be getting the freshest for a good price. But no, since that attracted attention, they knew they can raise the prices up, and it's not the best ones. Mangoes or dragon fruit? Yeah, mangoes are good. My kid likes mangoes and dragon fruit. Dragon fruits are pretty good. Fruit is pretty good too. It's just expensive. Mangoes, though, I'll buy them. They were actually on sale, like 3 for $1. The honey mango, they're like little orange colored ones. They're like 3 for $1, so I bought 3. The big ones are usually like 60 cents each on sale-ish. Those ones are good too. I don't know. They're just annoying to peel, and the pit is like over 50% of it. Okay. So we're going to be talking about negatives today. And I don't want to be negative with this lesson. We're going to be positive. All of you are going to master negatives. By the time we're done with this negative lesson, I'm positive. So the first form we need to learn is the most simple. I'm pretty sure most of you already know this form. You take a verb stem, so any verb minus the ta at the end, and you attach ji directly to it, followed by anta. Now, this is pronounced as anta due to sound change rules, but you're not really gonna leave it like that though. In most cases, you're gonna conjugate this anta, which conjugates just like a regular verb. It ends with a. The last syllable in it is a, so you're gonna attach ayu. So anayu, or past tense. 안았어요. 않습니다. 않을 거예요. 않을 거야. In the future tense. 안내요. Anything you want to do. Any tense, any conjugation is fine. It's just a regular verb. So this makes that verb negative. Instead of saying, I like it, now you say, I do not like it. Instead of saying, I will go, I won't go. I want to, I don't want to. I did, I didn't. You get the idea. I'll give you a few really quick examples. Again, I'm sure you already know this, so sit tight. We'll get into some more stuff, but I need to go over the basics first. Normally, I like, you'd use the verb 좋아하다, to like. 좋아하지 않아요. I don't like it. I don't know why I'm doing the 6-7 thing right now. Next. Let's check the chat real quick. Now I want some mango float or mango sago. Mango float. Interesting. That sounds good. Oh, you know what's really good is it a Hong Kong brand? It's like a fruit smoothie drink that has a bunch of mango in it. It's like filled with mango. What is it? What is it called? How shall low? I can't. You know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. It's in the US too, the brand, but anyway, okay. 가다, to go. 가지 않다, to not go. So if we put that in the future tense, 가지 않을 거예요. So I will not go. Instead of 갈 거예요. I will go. 가지 않을 거예요. I won't go. 보고 싶어요. I want to see it. 보고 싶지 않아요. I do not want to see it. Are you sensing a pattern? I mean, I hope so. I explained it already. 보고 싶지 않아요. I do not want to see it. I'm doing this really fast because I know most of you have already learned this before. 공부했어요. I studied. 공부하지 않았어요. I did not study. Notice that it's still 하지. It's not like 했지 않았어요 or anything like that. It's just the plain verb stem with 지. 공부하지, and then you put the tense. And then the tense. In this case, 않았어요. So I did not study. I did not. 그 여자를 때리지 않았어요. I did not hit her. This is getting low. Oh, I think this is getting low now. Interesting. Okay. I'll have to replace this one. The next way to make a verb negative is with an. And the way it works is even simpler because you don't need to conjugate anything specially or take a verb stem. You just attach an, and then you do the regular thing you're going to do with the verb. Like 가다, to go. Normally you would get 가요, I'm going, or 갔어요, or 갈 거예요, or whatever you want to say. And you just stick an before that, and you're done. So instead of 가요, 안 가요, I'm not going. 안 갈 거예요, I'm not going to go. 안 갔어요, I didn't go. Then many verbs can add an to make them negative, but not all verbs will do it. First, though, before I talk about which verbs do and don't, let me give you just a couple examples. Oops. Before we had 좋아하지 않아요. I don't like it. But you could also just say 안 좋아해요. I don't like it. Check the chat real quick. Oh, hi, Mock. Did you buy more Korean markers? No, not yet. I have these, which I bought, I think, the end of last year. They are refillable. And I'm gonna buy refills for them because I really like them. I wanted to use them first before I decided, but they work great. They last longer, and they're actually cheaper than me buying the packs of markers I used to. If you're cold, you say 추워요. If you're not cold, you can say 안 추워요. Now, if we were to use the 지 않다 form from before, we would just take the verb stem, which is 춥 for 춥다, 춥지 않아요, right? So you have these two options, 안 추워요, 춥지 않아요. They both mean it is not cold. And I'll talk about that in a second, why they're different, but two more examples first. I'll have to switch markers again. These two have to be refilled. Okay. 점심, lunch. 점심을 아직 still yet 안 먹었어요. So I didn't eat lunch yet. 점심을 아직 안 먹었어요. Now, if you were to use the other form, we would have 아직 먹지 않았어요, which also means the exact same thing. I didn't eat lunch yet. Okay. One more. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I'm trying to go quickly because these are things I assume you already know. But if I'm going too fast, let me know. I'll slow down a bit. When can we not? Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. Don't worry. Let's see. Mango. Oh, is that mango sago? Okay. Nice, nice. Okay. 요즘, lately, 한국어, the Korean language, 공부, study, 안 해요. So I don't do Korean study lately. So I'm not studying Korean lately. 요즘 한국어 공부를 안 해요. Lately, I'm not studying Korean. Or you could have said, 하지 않아요. I don't study Korean lately. Both are fine. 요즘 한국어 공부를 안 해요. So I don't study Korean lately. Hopefully you don't say this, but if you do, I mean, a lot of people do. I would have said this sentence at one point in my life. Actually, after when I was going to college, and I studied Korean already for a couple of years, then I was kind of like, maybe I don't need Korean anymore because, I mean, what am I going to do with it after all? I like learning it, but now it's time to move on to another language. It's kind of what I was thinking at that point. But then, yeah, starting the YouTube channel kind of made me realize I just want to do only Korean. But there would have been a time when I would have said something the same, like, oh, I'm not studying Korean nowadays. I'm not going to try to forget it. I'm not giving up, but, I'm good for now. And then I was doing Mandarin and Cantonese. But yeah, I came back to it. So it's fine. It happens. Okay. Let's see, can I use this black one here? So, when do you use an and when do you use ji anta? Well, first of all, we still need to talk a little bit more about when you can use an, because I said that many verbs can add an to make it negative. Technically, any verb that's by itself, so just a verb by itself without anything attached to it, can use an, except for verbs that are already negative. And we'll talk about those next. So if it's not a verb that's already uniquely negative, 아니다 is one example, then you technically can use an with any verb you want. So give me a verb. 먹다, 안 먹다. Cool. Let's do a descriptive verb. 춥다, to be cold. 안 춥다. Let's do something longer. What about like to teach Korean? 가르치다, 안 가르치다. You're fine. What's another verb we can do? Let's say 하다. You see that a lot, right? 안 하다. Cool. Is there anything we can't? Let's see. No, technically, you can use an for anything except for negative verbs. But even though you technically can, that doesn't mean that they will, and that doesn't mean that it'll all sound unnatural. Sorry. That doesn't mean, just because you can, though, doesn't mean that they will, and it doesn't mean that they'll all sound natural. So, which ones sound natural to use? If the verb is 2 syllables, definitely it'll sound natural if you add an. And it'll probably sound even more natural and more common to use an than ji anta if it's only 2 syllables. This is automatically every pure Korean verb. And there are a lot of these. How many can you think of? We did 먹다 before. So we had 먹다, 가다, 오다, 살다, 죽다, 놀다. You know, there are a bunch of these. 사다, to buy, and 하다, to do, which is extremely common, although I will talk about this one a little bit more in a second. So if it has two syllables, you can use on before it. But it has to be the verb by itself. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. Here's the verb. What's up with my voice? Here's the verb 먹다, to eat. So 피자를 먹다, to eat pizza, right? Where do we put on in this sentence? You don't have to write it down, just think about it. Where would you put on? So if you're going to say I eat pizza, 피자를 먹어요. But if you wanted to say I don't eat pizza, where would you put on? On 피자를 먹어요? 피자 안을 먹어요? 피자를 먹어요 안? I'm saying this, I'm pretty sure you know where to put it. I'm just saying it to kind of help you with the next step we're going to be doing, which is less than obvious. Yeah, 피자를 안 먹어요. 피자를 안 먹다, to not eat pizza. Yes. Now, this is probably obvious to you though, right? Because you know that on would go before the verb. However, when we use a different two-syllable verb, I see a lot of beginners make this mistake. 하다. 하다. What does 하다 mean? Well, if it's an action verb, then 하다 means to do, right? Like, I didn't do it. I want to do it. I will do it. I am doing it. Whatever you want to say, 하다. But 하다 appears in a lot of other verbs where it means to do, right? For example, we just saw 공부를 하다. Now, this object marker is optional. 공부하다 is literally to do studying, right? You probably learned this. 요리하다, to do cooking, to cook. 설거지하다, to do the dishes. There are hundreds of these, right? But when you want to say, I didn't study, many beginners make the mistake of thinking that 공부하다 is a verb by itself, when actually 하다 is the verb and 공부 is the noun, studying. So if you want to use an and you have the sentence, I studied Korean, and you want to change it to I didn't study Korean, where does the an go? Go. Why did I say it like Korean? Where does the an go in that case? Right here. An, before the verb, just as we learned before. It's not an exception. It's just something to keep in mind. If you see a verb ending with 하다 and it's an action, it needs to be here. If you put 안 공부했어요, it sounds awkward. It makes sense because they know 안 means not, 공부했어요 means studied, and they'll figure it out, that what you were trying to say. Only 공부 안 했어요 would sound natural. Why? Because 하다 is the verb, not 공부. So this is why when I teach verbs, I always make sure to include that there's a marker here so you can clearly see that it's a 하다 verb with a noun separately and the object marker or whatever it is. If you learn a verb as just 공부하다, 요리하다, 수영하다, like that, you might miss this because there are other verbs that have 하다 that cannot be detached. There are many descriptive verbs that end with 하다 that you cannot separate. 피곤하다, for one, and there are many others. You cannot say 피곤 안 해요. It doesn't make any sense because that is not 하다, the action verb. That is 하다, the descriptive verb. So if it's an action verb again, you can only separate it here. This is where you're going to put the an right before the 하다. Now, if the verb doesn't end with 하다 at all, you can also use an before it, and it'll sound fine. So I gave you a couple examples already. 힘들다, to be difficult or to have a hard time. 안 힘들다. 괜찮다, to be okay. 안 괜찮아요. It's not okay. 안 괜찮아. That's fine. So, again, only for action verbs do you have to do that thing with 하다. If you were to see, now there are a few exceptions though. You can also use 안 for verbs that are one syllable followed by 하다. Some of them. So this is more of an advanced note if you've already learned these rules. There are a couple that are really common. 정 and 통 are two that come to mind right now. But it's fine to use 안 before these. 안정했어요. 안통했어요. Totally fine. Okay. But if it's a descriptive verb, you can't separate it. Anyway. I think that's pretty much it. Yes. All right. So we're not done though. So in those cases I shared, it's natural to use 안 before them. But it's not going to always be natural to use 안 with every verb. So just keep that in mind. But if you can use it with a verb, it's going to sound natural. Okay. So 지 않다 versus 안. When would you use one or the other? Well, if you're ever in any doubt and you're not quite sure if this verb is normally used with this, just use 지 않다. It'll always be grammatically correct. It'll always be understood. And it's not going to ever be like, if you use it. The difference though is that 지 않다 shows a bit more emphasis and contrast. Kind of like saying, I don't eat pizza. 피자를 먹지 않아요. You know, you might think I do, but I don't eat pizza. 먹지 않아요. Versus, 피자를 안 먹어요. I don't eat pizza. There's a slight emphasis difference. There's a slight contrast difference when you use 지 않다. And 안 doesn't have that. So if you want to emphasize, like, you know, you might think I do, but I don't. Or, some people might, but I'm not going to. Maybe you want to, but I don't want to. Or, yeah, you know, other people did. I'm not going to do that. Or I didn't do that. It has that emphasis on the verb a little bit more. Did not. Did not. I did not hit her. I did not. It has that emphasis. Very slight, but it's there. And because it has that emphasis, very slight emphasis, 지 않다 is also more commonly used in formal usage. Just like you might say did not instead of saying didn't. Now, it's not the same difference as did not and didn't, but notice how in English, did not has a little bit more of that emphasis, or do not, will not versus won't, didn't, don't, right? So it's used more commonly in formal usage. If you're writing an essay, I recommend using this one. If you're giving a speech, this one will sound a little bit more appropriate. Okay, that's though the only difference. And if you ever mess them up, who cares? It still makes perfect sense. So don't worry about it too much. But if you ever can, I recommend using 안 with the verb. Again, remember that 하다 can only be 안 하다, no matter what's before it. But that's only for action verbs. You can't do it for descriptive verbs. Okay. Let me check the chat real quick before we go on. 공부하다. Yes. Mary Laura is asking about removing the, or no, you're not, you're explaining it. Never mind. Oh yeah, small spacing thing. If you ever see a verb that has, right, it has an object marker with a noun, and then the verb 하다, the way you space it is, normally if you have this object marker here, then there is a space here. If you don't write the object marker, it is written without a space. So you'll say 공부해요 without a space. 공부를 해요 if you do have this included. So if this is ever there in the sentence, if you ever have the object marker, there's a space here. And if you don't, it's written as one. This is just a spacing rule in Korea. The sound is the exact same. You're not going to say like 공부해요 if there's a space. It's just how you write it. And is spacing important in Korean? As a teacher, no, not really. Only for a test, for like a written portion of a test, yes. Otherwise, for regular usage, for speaking, for chatting, anything else, no. And most Koreans don't know spacing either. Now, I said that almost every verb can use an, or almost every verb can do this. There are a few verbs that have a unique negative verb, which is used instead of either an or 지 않다, but especially is not used with an. So these ones are not used with an. It would sound awkward. I mean, you can do it, but it'll sound really awkward. The first one, you probably know these, but the first one is 없다, which is the opposite of 있다. You don't say 안 있어요. 지금 안 있어요. Sounds kind of weird. I mean, they'll understand it because they know 안, but it sounds really weird. So 지금 없어요. 철수가, my friend 철수, 철수가 집에 없어요. 철수 is not at house. 철수 is not at home, which is the opposite of saying 철수가 집에 있어요. 철수 is at home. 집에 있어요. 집에 없어요. So that's all you have to do is just switch. You don't have to do anything else. You just switch the regular verb for the negative version. And I'm sure you already know this one, but let me go over the other two. Oh, alternatively, let me give you one more example. Short. Okay. 영화가, the movie, 재미없어요. 재미있어요 would be entertaining and fun. 재미없어요, not entertaining, not fun, boring. 영화가 재미없어요. The movie stunk. 너무 재미없었어요. It was terrible. So, anytime you see 있다, you just switch it with 없다, whether it's being used to mean that someone is or someone isn't anywhere, or if you're using any of those verbs like 재미있다 or like 맛이 있다, 맛이 없다, 재미없다, just like that. Now, I said that you would never use these with an. You wouldn't use an 있다, but you can use negative verbs with the other form 지 않다 if you want. So in addition to 없다, you also might see this. Again, you won't see 안 있다, but you might see 있지 않다. Why might you use, or when would anyone use this when you can just use 없다? Why would you say like 재미있지 않아요 instead of 재미없어요? Both are fine. Think about 지 않다. When would you use 지 않다 over 안 when you're able to? I mentioned it. Not about sounding formal or informal, because it doesn't really matter about that. That was the secondary usage. The main difference, though, was just that 지 않다 has a little bit more contrast than using 안, right? Because it has contrast, you still don't need to use it, though, in regular situations. So if I wanted to say, 철수가 지금 집에 있지 않아요. 철수 is not at the house. It sounds like you're saying, well, 철수 is not at the house. That sort of emphasis in a regular sentence is not really necessary. But it can be necessary when you are doing one thing. asking a rhetorical question. Is it not? Don't you think? Would it not be? Would it not be entertaining? That's the situation when you will commonly use 지 않다 instead of an. It doesn't only apply to this verb, but any verb when you could use an or a negative verb or 지 않다 and you have a choice, you'll choose 지 않다 more often when you're asking a rhetorical question because it has that added contrast. Like, is it not? Does it not? Could it? Had it not been that way? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. You're asking kind of, is it not? In which case you want that extra contrast. So you would use 있지 않다 instead of 없다 in those cases. But you wouldn't use it for regular sentences to say like 철수가 집에 있지 않아요. That's like 철수 is not at the house right now. Like, okay, thanks. So you don't normally use it, but if you are making a rhetorical question, you would. There's another case when you might want to use 지 않다 instead of an. When you're doing the progressive tense. So if you want to say that someone is currently doing something, normally you use 고 있다, right? So like someone is currently going, 가고 from 가다, 가고 있어요. How would you say they're not going? Well, you could say 안 가고 있어요, they're not going, or they're not going if you want that contrast. 가고 있지 않아요. Now, you don't need that contrast again, but if you wanted to add it, or if you're making a rhetorical question, you can use 지 않다 for that as well. You cannot say, however, 고 없다. You cannot do this. 가고 없어요. Doesn't make any sense. They won't understand what you're trying to say, probably. Or maybe they will. If they're a Korean teacher, they'll understand. 가고 없어요 doesn't make any sense. You have to use 있다 with 고. So whether you do it by saying 있지 않다 or an before the verb, you can choose based on what nuance you want and the feeling you want. Most of the time, though, an is going to be more natural if you can do it. And if you don't know what the progressive tense is, just remember it's always 고 있다 and not ever 없다. Okay, so that's enough for 있다. There are two more that I need to cover. 이다. How does 이다 become negative? Well, this one actually, it's not really a special verb, but it is spelled differently. So how do we do this normally? Well, you could normally just say 이지 않다, right? If you're making a rhetorical question, like, is it not? Sure, 이지 않다 could work for that. 이지 않아요? 한국 사람이지 않아요? Is he not a Korean person? Like that, if you want that emphasis. But most of the time you just add an, right? And this is a 2-syllable verb. So 100%, Billy told me it's going to be natural. And yeah, we can do that here too. 아니다. We get 아니다. But wait, 아니다. It's so commonly used, they actually just spell it as one. It fused into just one form, so you get the verb 아니다. But it is 아니다 put together. So because of that, it's even conjugated the exact same way as 아니다. So you get 아니에요, right? Or 아니었어요 in the past tense. But there's one thing though that you also need to know about that is that it's used together with a marker, like the subject marker most of the time, or it could be with the particle 도, but it is used together with a marker in grammatically correct sentences. So let me give you a quick example of that. In speech, you don't have to, regular speech, but if you're writing an essay, you want to be more proper, then you should use this. 우리 집이 아니에요. So instead of just saying like 우리 집 아니에요, it is not our house, you're saying 우리 집이 아니에요. So you use the subject marker to mark what 아니다 is defining, what it's talking about, in this case, the house. But you could use a different particle here. You could use the topic marker. It's not our house. If you want to emphasize it, you won't do that. Maybe 도 for like even. 우리 집도 아니에요. It's not even our house. Okay, sure. But you would put something there. In everyday speech, though, 우리 집 아니에요 is fine. But just know that it can use and often does use a marker. Okay. Let's see. How am I on time? I'm actually doing pretty good on time because I'm going quickly. Okay. I do want to get this done. That way I can go through everything. Oh, and then one more. 알다 and 모르다. So if you're saying that you don't know something, you're not going to use 안 알아요. I don't know. You actually would say 모르다, to not know. There is a really quick thing I do want to mention that is for advanced learners. If you're not an advanced learner, don't worry about this, but it's just kind of a fun etymology thing. So it's likely that 모르다 actually is etymology related to etymology. It is actually related to 알다, that it's not a completely separate word, that it actually came from basically not this exact form because they didn't structure it like that. 못 알다 is actually likely the origin of 모르다. 못 meaning cannot, no. So if you're saying I can't know that, is it formed over time with there's some changes that happened. This would be 못. This letter softened. I softened to and then the lir here, and since it can't be left alone, it got its own vowel here. And then this softened to 르. So you get 모르다, like that. Probably what happened. We don't know. So it's not a completely separate verb. It's most likely just related from that. Okay, so 모르다 means you don't know. You wouldn't say 안 알아요. But you could say 알지 않다. 알지 않을까요? Would they not know? Like that? And then you probably already learned how to conjugate this, but it's 몰라 and then 요, or whatever other tense you want to do. 몰랐어요 in the past tense, 몰라요 in the present tense. 철수도 몰라요. 철수 doesn't know either. But if you wanted to use it as a hypothetical question, you could say something like, we actually erase this. 철수는 알지 않을까? Do you think, might 철수 know that? Wouldn't 철수 know about that? 철수는 알지 않을까? So in this case, you're using 지 않을까 because it's like, it has that emphasis, that contrast of like, not know instead of just not know. It's like, would he not know that? So again, hypothetical situations, it's fine to use 지 않다, more common. Besides that though, 모르다. You could just straight up ask, 철수는 몰라요? 철수 doesn't know? But again, if you wanted that contrast, then you would use 지 않다 because it has more of that. Okay, that is the verbs. We're going to take a 1-minute break while I check the chat. I don't want to go too fast. Okay. Rhetorical question is, it's when you're asking something to yourself, basically. You're expressing your thoughts by asking a question. Rhetorical just means like you don't really need an answer to it. Actually, I don't know if that's what rhetorical means, but that's what I'm thinking it is. Not a chance. 철수 missed that day. Yes. Mary's asking the difference between 지 않아 and 자나. Yeah, originally it did come from it. It's a shortened version of it, but it has a different usage now. I recommend get my cheat sheets. I released a pack of 20 Korean language cheat sheets. They're all free. You can download them individually for free. If you're a Patreon member, you can download them all at once in a bulk pack just to save your finger from clicking 20 times. But yeah, they're free. And there's one of the cheat sheets about sentence endings. And it includes tanayo in there as well. It did come from the same form, but because it's been used so much, it did adapt its own extra nuance to it. So it's not used just as the negative form. You're not asking, is it not? Even though it originally originated from that. Okay. So if someone asks you a question and you're going to say yes or no, but their question includes a negative, you may have learned this before, but in Korean, they reply to negative questions literally. In English, we'll say something like this. We might say something like this. Clean this up a little bit. Okay. 한국 음식을 좋아하지 않아요? Do you not like Korean food? Basically, don't you like Korean food? Someone could ask you that. Hey, don't you like Korean food? What would you reply in English? Don't you like Korean food? Oh yeah, I love Korean food. In Korean, it's the opposite. Now, it doesn't mean that it's the opposite always. It just means that Koreans will reply to a negative with a literal answer to that. So how would you reply literally to, do you not like Korean food? Don't you like Korean food? You would say, no, I do, right? That's how you do it in Korean, is the literal way. So if you wanted to reply to this, you would say, 네 means I don't like it, or 아니요 means I like it. But there's a little bit more to it than this. Because technically, this is the correct answer. You say no, it means you like it. But who answers questions that way? Come on. Don't you like Korean food? Oh, yes. Oh, no. You don't do that in English either, or in Korean. You're going to say something about it, right? Don't you like Korean food? Oh, I love Korean food, right? You're going to say something about it. Or, oh man, yeah, I don't like it. You're going to say something. So in Korean as well, while technically you should start your sentence with the correct one, literally, you're not only going to say that, you're also going to say something like, 아니요, 좋아해요. Sorry, this is messy. I'm running out of space. 아니요, 좋아해요. 아니요, 좋아해요. No, I like it. Or just 좋아해요. I like it. You don't even need the yes or no. Just say what you want to say. That's going to be fine. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Although this is something you need to know, to be honest with you, after speaking Korean with Korean people for now over 20 years, this doesn't really come in use that much. I don't really use this that much because people aren't usually asking you questions like this in the negative form where you have to answer like that. Just reply with what you want to say. It's not common that people are going to say like 한국 음식을 싫어하지가 않으실 거 아닌가요? Like they're not going to ask you like triple negatives and try to trip you up or anything like that. 싫어하지 않으셨을 수 있었을까요? Like, you're not going to get this. So don't worry about it. But yeah, you do need to be aware of it. It's just not really an issue. But if something that might be more is like they might 혹시 가지 않았어요? Did you not go there? 거기 가지 않았어요? Did you not go there? But if you did, would you say 아니요 갔어요? No, I went there. Or 네 갔어요. You would say no, I went there, because you're like disagreeing with what they said. You didn't go there? And you're saying, no, I went there. But you could also just say, 갔어요. I went there. 안 갔어요. I didn't go there. So don't worry about it. It's not like a huge thing. And if you ever were to say, oh, 네, 갔어요, it's not a big deal. They're going to think you're just agreeing with them. They might think you misunderstood exactly what they're saying, but they're just going to think, oh, he or she, they agree with me. Okay. It's not going to cause any misunderstandings unless you only said yes or no. Now, 지 않다 is the base form, but there are other versions of this that you might see. And if you are in intermediate level, you've definitely come across some of these before. Can anyone name them? Does anyone know any other forms of 지 않다? Basically, you have 지, and then you have a particle, and then 않다. Can anyone think of one? There are at least 4 that I can think of. In Arabic, we have a totally different word between yes and no. Great. I won't lose. I won't. Do not lose. Oh, it doesn't even map. Yes, Nyaru. Yes. I like that. Yes. You can have here, 도, 지도 않다. You can have, see if anyone else has any. Anyway, I'll just give them to you. You can have 는. You can have the object marker, 를. You can also have 가, the subject marker here. There are some others that you might see. These are the most common ones that I'll give you because I do want to talk about them a little bit. So, 지, 도. So, 지 않아요. 지 않습니다. 지 않았어요. Whatever. Did not or does not, do not. 하다. Actually, let's use 가다 as an example. 가지 않아요. I don't go. 가지도 않아요. I don't even go. So now you're talking about even the verb. Like, I don't even go. 좋아하지도 않아요. I don't even like it. You're not just saying 좋아하지 않아요. I don't like it. You're saying I don't even like it. You know, I don't watch it. I'm not interested. I don't even like it. So you get that meaning of even also or to when you use the particle 도, just like you do with a regular sentence. 한국어를, actually, this is something else I'll talk to you in a second, so I'll save this. Let's see. Okay, let me give you a really quick example. Let's make it straight, plain form. Okay, 웃기지 않다 정말. That's not funny. 웃기다 is literally to make someone laugh, to make people smile. So it's not humorous. Seriously, come on. Come on, that's not funny. 웃기지 않다 정말. 웃기지도 않다 정말. That's not even funny. So it changes the nuance of the sentence when you add other particles here. The nuance of the negative sentence. Next, we also can use the topic marker. 는, 지는 않다. Same thing, but now we have that nuance of the topic marker, which is just adding extra contrast, like in English, how we raise our intonation a bit. For example, do I have space down here? Not really. I'm just going to erase this. The most important part. 비싸지는 않지만 싸지도 않아요. So, 비싸지 않아요. It's not expensive. 비싸지 않지만. It's not expensive, but now we have the 지는. 비싸지는 않지만. And the intonation we get, the emphasis we get is it's not expensive, where we raise our intonation to cause the listener to pay more attention to it. That's what the topic marker does in Korean. So 비싸지는 않지만, it's not expensive. And because we did that, we need something to compare it with on our sentence, right? So it's not expensive, but 싸지도 않아요. It's not even cheap. It's not cheap either. 도 can mean either, also, to, even. So it's not expensive, but it's not cheap either, is what you get. 비싸지는 않지만 싸지도 않아요. So you can add different particles to change the nuance of your sentence. But if you didn't have this, 비싸지 않지만 사지 않아요 is also okay. It's not expensive, but it's not cheap. 비싸지 않지만 사지 않아요. Sure, just doesn't have that nice nuance of a really native level sentence. So it just changes the nuance of your sentence. We can do two more. These two, though. The object marker and the subject marker. We do have to talk about these a little bit more. So we can get jitter, which can shorten in everyday conversation to this, or we can get 지가. So first, let's talk about the object marker. How is the object marker getting added onto here? Well, again, when you're using jitter, ji with the object marker, it's because it's being used with an action verb. Because you're only going to be using the object marker anyway when you're using an action verb. So if you're using like 피곤하다 to be tired, you can't say 피곤하지를 않아요 because it's not an action. You have to only use it with action verbs. 가다 to go, fine. 먹다 to eat, fine. 춥다 to be cold, no, that's not an action. So only with actions can you use this. And it only adds a slight emphasis to the verb. 먹지 않았어요. I did not eat it. 먹지 않았어요. Or 먹지를 않았어요. I didn't eat it. Very small emphasis. Not necessary though, I think. But if you see it, that's all it is. It's the exact same thing. And again, it's only for action verbs. You cannot use this with descriptive verbs. However, 가, on the other hand, is the same thing for extra emphasis, but with descriptive verbs. Do I even have an example? I think there might be an example in the worksheet. I don't think I wrote one down here. There's one thing I forgot though. One thing I forgot. 지는 also can shorten to 진 in everyday conversation. So if you see it, it's the same thing. 좋아하진 않아요. 좋아하지는 or 좋아하진 않아요. Same thing. Don't use these shortened versions though in essays, but they're fine for regular speech. They're not casual or anything, but just because they're shortened forms, they're slightly less formal and official. Let's see if I need to cover anything. Okay, that's pretty much, there are actually a few more particles we could cover. I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole though very deep, but there are some other particles you might see. But if you see anything else between 지 and anta, just know that it's a regular particle modifying the verb, adding a little bit of emphasis or nuance to that verb itself, and that's the only difference. But you can use them if you'd like. Okay, there's one more thing with negative verbs that we have to talk about, and that is if you are saying you don't do something versus can't. And this is a mistake I see a lot of beginners and also a lot of intermediate level speakers making. So, if you say any verb with a negative form, that doesn't mean you can't. It just means you don't, right? Like, 가지 않았어요. I did not go. It didn't mean you couldn't go. It just meant you didn't. 좋아하지 않아요. It doesn't mean you can't like it, right? It just means you don't. 한국 사람이 아니에요. I am not a Korean. It doesn't mean I can't be a Korean. It just means I'm not, right? It wouldn't make any sense. 춥지 않아요. It's not cold. It could be cold. It's just not. So, 안 해요. I don't. But it doesn't mean I can't. But then I see a lot of beginners and actually intermediates sometimes say things like this. 한국어를 잘 하지 않아요. 한국어 잘 안 해요. Which is grammatically correct, but it's not what you want to say, so it's wrong. It's a very common mistake. What they're trying to say is I don't speak Korean well, because 한국어를 잘해요 means I speak Korean well, or someone speaks Korean well. Someone's good at Korean. So therefore, they speak Korean well. They don't speak Korean well. 지 않아요. Which is wrong, because if you say 한국어를 잘하지 않아요, it means you simply do not speak Korean well because you feel like it. I don't want to speak Korean. 한국어 하기 싫어가지고 일부러 한국어 잘 하지 않아요. It grammatically makes sense, but it's weird. You wouldn't say that. When you're saying you don't do something well, you're actually saying you can't do it well. Same with like cooking. Like, oh man, I don't swim well. I don't cook well. What you're saying is I can't, not that I choose not to. So if you say 지 않다 or 안, you're actually referring to simply the action. You're not talking about someone's ability to do something. If you're talking about ability, there's a different verb that you can, there's a different form that you use, which works in the same way as 지 않다 or 안. And that is 지 못하다, one word. Or instead of 안, for can't, you can say, instead of 안, you have just 못. So you can either put 못 before the verb, or you can use 지 못하다. Again, one word after the verb stem. And the differences are the same as between 안 and 지 않다. But this means cannot. So, 한국어를 잘 못해요. 못 with 하다, 못해요. I can't speak Korean well. Or 잘 하지 못해요. That's it. This will conjugate, so 못하다 becomes 해요 or 했어요 or 합니다 or whatever you want to say. And this just goes before the verb. So it works the same way, but that is how you talk about an ability. And it's not only for speaking Korean that I hear people say this. This is another really common mistake I hear. 이해하지 않았어요. I did not understand. But you're saying, like, you know, I could have understood, but I didn't understand, is what you're saying. Quite literally, is what it sounds like. Like, yeah, they'll get you didn't understand, obviously, but now it sounds like, yeah, I didn't feel like it. Today I just didn't want to understand. So I didn't understand today. I will tomorrow, but I didn't today. So if you're talking about an ability to do something or not, you don't use 지 않다 to say that you don't have that ability. This is like saying I chose not to understand. You know, I didn't want to listen to you. 이해하지도 않았어요. I didn't even understand it because I didn't want to. It's not what you say. So instead, you can use 못하다, and you can conjugate that to any tense you want, like 못했어요, I couldn't, or just remember that 이해하다 is actually 이해를 하다. 하다. Where do we put 안? Right here. Where do we put 못? Right here. So 이해를 못해요 is also fine. You don't even need to use the 하지 if you want, because again, it's already in the verb 하다 by itself. 이해를 못 했어요. 이해를 못 했어요. I couldn't understand. 이해를 못 해요. 이해를 못 해요. I can't understand. Like that. But I do hear this quite a bit when people say that they don't speak Korean well, or 잘 하지 않아요, and I get why they're doing it, because they haven't learned about this concept yet. But if you do that as an intermediate speaker, which I actually hear quite a bit of people use it like that, and that's when it starts to sound like, oh, they don't know what they're saying. Whereas a beginner, you can forgive them because they haven't learned it yet. But yeah, so now don't use 지 않다 or an when you're talking about an ability. Only use it when you're talking about like a choice, like something that simply does or doesn't happen. Okay. I'm surprised I actually got through all this. This was a ton of stuff. There are a few other things we could talk about with negatives, but I'm going to leave it there. But we're not done. But we are done with the lesson. Now I'd like to quickly take a thumbnail image, and then I want to leave about 30 to 45 minutes for questions, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the lesson, and I'll give you an update on like scheduling and stuff like that. Let me just get a really quick thumbnail. It's always the same. You're right, it's always the same. You got to do something different this time. I'll be like way up here. No, I'll be like, there we go. I'll be like really close to the board. That's unique, right? Yeah, Mary Laura is also mentioning something. 못 보다 is like I couldn't see it. If you say 안 보다, I didn't see it, it means I didn't look. That's a really good example. 안 보다. So, 안 봤어요. So, that's the past tense. If someone asked, did you see it? 봤어요? And you didn't see it. 안 봤어요. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. That means I didn't look, right? So if someone asks you, hey, there's a piece of trash on the floor. Did you see that? How come you didn't pick it up? It's your job to pick up the trash. 안 봤어요? 쓰레기 안 봤어요? You didn't see the trash? Which one would you use? 안 봤어요 is like, I didn't look at it. 못 봤어요. I couldn't see it. I didn't see it is what we would say. We'd say both as didn't in English. But in Korean, 못 봤어요 means like, oh no, I missed it. I couldn't see it. Did you see a movie? Did you watch The Odyssey? It was kind of cool. I liked it. Did you watch The Odyssey? You could use either. Like, hey, I didn't have any time. 아직 못 봤어요. I couldn't see it yet. 안 봤어요. I didn't watch it. Both of those are fine. They have different nuance. Different meaning, but they're both correct. But if you wanted to say, no, it's not a choice, I was unable to, then you have to use 못. Because if you say 안 봤어요 about something that you're supposed to see, it sounds like you ignored it. Because 보다 doesn't just mean to see. 보다 is also the verb for to look. So if you think of it as look, that might help. Hey, there's the trash on the floor. Did you see it? I didn't look. I couldn't look. Did you watch the Odyssey movie? Oh no, I didn't look. Or I don't have any time, so I couldn't look. Like that. But if you want to really get into couldn't see, we'll have to go into passives, because the verb 보이다 is essential for talking about that sort of thing. But again, this is the verb for look. 보다. I didn't look. Again, it doesn't have to do with like, oh, it was so far away. If it's something so far away, you could say I couldn't look at it because it's so far away. But if you're saying, oh man, I can't see it, it's so far away, it's not visible, then you use a different verb for that, which we're not talking about today. That would be passive speech. Mary Laura also asks, 지 말입니다. So yeah, I actually talk about that in the final episode of my Master Politeness Levels course on YouTube, which is free. I think it's the second to last or the very last one. where I give more examples of it. But yeah, Cosma explained it really briefly. It's just a form used in the military to add a bit more emotion while still being polite. But I don't think it's used anymore. It was like used for a short time. But yeah, the reason is you're supposed to be formal. You're supposed to completely keep politeness levels between ranks of the military when you're talking to someone above you, like your commander or your leader. You wouldn't do that when talking to each other in private, but and they wouldn't do that to you, but that's what you're supposed to do as a military member. So in order to be polite, 입니다, but you want to add like emphasis to it, they would add a grammar form 지 말, 지 말이다, which is a normal grammar form you can add to be like, oh, come on, like I'm saying, you know. So it's like if you have to be really formal, but you're sticking on this like casual expression, but still ending it with the formal ending to sound formal. It's kind of a way to get away with doing that. But yeah, there's a short lesson about that in the Master Politeness Levels course I have, which is completely free. Evolving Brain says, what's the difference between, can you write it in Hangul? Unless it's supposed to be a joke. I noticed it a lot in military drama. Yeah, military drama will do that. And that might have helped popularize it even more. Okay, so since the lesson part is over, now I'm going to be answering any questions you have. It can be about the lesson. It can be about anything you want to know in Korean. And I'll stick around for 30 minutes. And then I have to start editing the video from today, which is going to take a while because it was really thick lesson. Oh yeah, and if you are one of my Patreon members, make sure to download this entire lesson after the live stream's over. I'll put it up on Patreon. There are also all of the worksheet questions on there as well for some more examples so you can practice. And you want the real secret to learning Korean is doing lots and lots of listening practice and lots of speaking practice. And these lessons, the purpose of my lessons is I want it to be motivation for you to feel like you can keep going, as well as support for learning these sometimes tricky concepts. I just want to be here for you for that. But it's going to be you who actually learns the language by going out of your day and getting opportunities to practice and making sure to do lots of listening practice as well. Hey, Ad Astra, how were you here the whole time? Ad Astra, if you don't mind, I'm going to put your donation. Thank you so much. I'm going to put your donation toward food because I'm going to make a Costco trip sometime, maybe this week or next week. I'm going to go to Costco and refill my freezer, which had failed. It's now emptied out, mostly clean, 95%. I'd say the smell's gone. The remaining bit, I think I can manage. I don't think it's worth $300 buying a new freezer for the 5% of the smell that it has. But yeah, so that's going to go toward my Costco trip. So thank you so much. Again, also Glass Artist from before, Sunny Southpaw. And then yeah, Ad Astra. Awesome. We've got $100 from this live stream. That's like almost half of a Costco trip. This is incredible. Those Costco sells the most expensive rotisserie chickens, I'll tell you. I swear they're priced at like $5-6, but you don't end up leaving for any less than like 200. Just the way that it works. I don't know how the barcode scan's weird or something. I was writing in Hangul. Are others seeing my text come out? Yes. Yes, Evolving Brain. I can see it perfectly now. I apologize. It must have been something wrong with my screen. Now I see it perfectly. It's like only the smartest emperors can see it. I definitely can. No, just caught that you were on. Nice. Well, glad you came in. Hopefully you saw some of the lesson because I just finished the lesson. Not that you needed most of it, but song requests are open. Okay. Being consistent, do a little bit every day over a long period of time instead of long studying infrequently. Yes. A little bit a day is better than like cramming it once a week. What if you miss that one time a week because, you have a legitimate reason? Well, now you missed a whole week of studying. I wrote, what's the difference between 지 못하다 and, oh, okay. 수 없다. Maybe I saw it. I only saw it in written in romanization on my tablet. Let me check on the desktop. Yeah, my desktop also only shows it. It's something's weird then. My desktop as well only shows it in the romanization. Did we go through how the power went out? Yeah, it wasn't my whole power. It was just the circuit, the circuit that was in my garage connected to a GFCI outlet. So I'm not sure what device, because I don't have too much stuff plugged in there. There's a refrigerator, there's a small, the kimchi refrigerator, and then the chest freezer, and that's it. And those don't draw a lot of power. So I don't know. Oh, and then there's a web camera in there as well. But I don't know what would have been the reason that it shorted the outlet. The outlet reset. It reset just fine and worked, but I don't know why. So possible that it's the old GFCI outlet. So I replaced that. It could be a problem with the freezer itself, like pulled too much current suddenly, but I don't know why. It wasn't, no one was opening it or anything, and that would be kind of weird. Oh, was YouTube auto translating? It might have been that. I don't have any. What is live chat summary? I don't know what that is. Live chat moderation. Don't hold. Yeah, I don't see any settings for making it auto translate. You have a tab for custom. Let me check. Oh, yeah, there is. That's really weird. That's a new thing. Yeah, I'll turn it off from now. That's weird. I never turned that on. So that must be a new thing that they added and automatically enabled between the last time I streamed and this time. Okay. Oh, and then so Evolving Brain was asking about 못하다 and 수 없다. I actually have a separate Korean FAQ about it. I'd recommend watching, which has a lot of examples. Su is ability, literally. So if you say 수 없다 means you do not have the ability to do something. By that would be like saying, not that I can't, but like I am physically and mentally unable to. So if you're saying 갈 수 없어요, means I cannot go. Like I physically cannot go. Whatever, something's preventing me, I'm completely unable to do. Versus like 못 가요. I can't go for any reason whatsoever. It could be someone else doing it to me. Like if your dad says you can't go to the movies, that's not 갈 수 없어요. It's 못 가요. 갈 수 없어요 is on me. I don't have the ability to go. Like I injured myself, or I'm too busy, or anything like that. But you don't use, this is not used so much unless you have to. Unless you are actually talking about someone's ability to do something or inability, you're not going to use this one for that. It's more common just to say 못 or 안 for when you're not going to do something or you can't do something than this. But I have a Korean FAQ. I recommend watching that. If you search 수 없다 or 못, you'll find it. And it actually covers all those three. 지 못하다, 못하다, and 수 없다. But that's the really short case. Like you're not going to say 지금 볼 수 없어요. Like I can't see it right now. Like I'm not able to see it right now. It's a bit of a long-winded way of saying I can't watch it now. You would just say 지금 못 봐요. So yeah, it's used less commonly because of that. But again, it's just because the word 수 means an ability. And same with 있다. It's the same thing. 갈 수 있어요. 할 수 있어? Oh, 못 갈 것 같아. Like that. Yeah, that's weird that it was automatically translating that. That's the first time I've seen it. I don't think it did that when I was in Korea. So it must have been like something added to my channel in like the past 3 weeks since I did a live stream. Oh, and then hold on. Someone asked about the podcast. Where was that? Okay, someone asked about the podcast, but I can't see where it was. Oh yeah, here we go. Noah Deeps. Yes. Their podcast is coming back soon. It was originally going to be uploaded for Patreon members. It was going to be uploaded this Friday, but it's going to be next Friday. I think that'll upload it for Patreon members. So let me check that. I just filmed the first episode yesterday or 2 days ago. Yeah. So if you're a Patreon member, next Friday, you'll get to listen to the first episode of season 2. The first episode is going to be about, it's a very specific topic, so I'm not sure if you're going to be interested in this. I am, though. It's about learning Korean through Japanese, as well as differences and similarities between Korean and Japanese. Very specific topic I wanted to talk about in a podcast. And also you'll get my first etymology lesson. I want to include etymology lessons in some of the podcasts. It's very in-depth. You're going to like it though. It's a topic I'm sure many people are aware of, but I haven't found a lesson for it before. So yeah, you'll get to learn about that. But yeah, that'll be the first episode. So 2 weeks from today, no, 2 weeks, not this week, but the next week is when it'll go live, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it was going to be earlier, but because I got extra busy with a lot of stuff coming back, not just the freezer and the fridge having an issue, but there's some other things I didn't want to bother you guys with. But yeah, so a lot of extra work I had, so that pushed it back a week. But yeah, season 2 is coming back. Same idea. Few things I'm organizing to make it easier. I got some new stuff for the set, which you'll see. And the first episode will open with a skit. I filmed all that a couple days ago. I do have a Korean FAQ about that. So the podcast is more in-depth about, it's not just can you learn Korean through Japanese, but it's also about how Korean and Japanese are similar, how Korean and Japanese are different, and should you learn Korean through another language, and my own experiences trying to learn Korean through Japanese. So yeah, it's just one episode kind of about the whole thing. But yeah, I'm really excited to share with you the first podcast episode of season 2, because it's a very in-depth etymology lesson on a topic that all of you are aware of, but nobody knows. But now you'll know. I had to do a lot of research, actually. I spent 5 or 6 hours. Yeah, because I started in the morning and I finished it in the early afternoon, all researching this one section in the podcast, just because there wasn't a lesson already about it that I could copy from that I've previously written. And there wasn't another lesson on the internet that I could just reference to check. So it was a lot of research. And then fortunately, I do actually have a friend, Korean linguistics specialist friend, who I was able to also check a lot of the stuff with, which I'm happy about. And knowing is half the battle. Yes. Pork chop sandwiches. Keith, yes, podcast coming back. Although it never really left, but it did have to go on a break while I was in Korea. Funnily though, when I came back from Korea, all the posters on the wall had fallen off. I'm not sure a good way to stick. How can I stick a poster on the wall without ruining the wallpaper or punching big holes in the wall? Does anyone know? What would you do? The walls are, I'll tell you, the walls are thin plywood with a high quality wallpaper on top. So I don't want to damage the wallpaper. It's like really, it's legitimate, real wallpaper on there. I built the set for real, but instead of drywall, because that would have been way too big to do a whole drywalling and everything, it's thin plywood. So I use masking tape to attach the posters to the wall, but because the posters are kind of thick paper, like actually, thick and smooth paper, they slowly will peel off the wall. So before filming, I like smooth everything back. One of them still keeps coming off right now. But I don't know if there's a better way. Does anyone have that issue at their house? Have they solved this? How do you attach posters to the wall so that all the corners, all the edges are nicely stuck to the end without making it permanent? Because sometimes I change the posters. In fact, this season I actually changed out a few of the posters and reorganized them. So I want to know a way that's not permanent. Now for heavy stuff in the set, I just added it. I can just put a nail. That's fine. But for posters, they don't weigh that much. So I don't know. And I don't want to have a bunch of nails that I keep punching holes in through the set. Sticky tack. I use sticky tack on part of it, but sticky tack is not sticky enough. And it can leave colored residue if you use the blue one. The white stuff I use for other parts of the set, it works okay. It's just not that sticky. It's not sticky enough to hold a poster. Poster putty? 3M strips. Yeah, 3M strips would be the ideal solution, but they would rip out the wallpaper. And I know they say that it peels off. It does not peel off. Even the official 3M ones does not perfectly come off. Nope. I've used that a lot in my room. The ones where you like hold it and you pull down. And like 70% of them come off perfect. And 30% of them leave like a little bit of the sticky stuff permanently you can't get rid of. So it's not a big deal, but for me, since it's on camera and it's a white wallpaper, it would kind of show. So I'm trying to avoid that sort of stuff. And I would have to use a lot. I'd have to use 4 of them for every poster at least, but really like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for like all of the outlines, or even 10 for the bigger posters. Poster putty, peeled up paint and wall. That's a mouthful to say. Poster putty, peeled up paint. Yeah. 최근에 몰랐던 걸 배웠어요. 어휘 공부를 하다가 입을 물렸다 라는 문장을 접했는데 물렸다? 는 피동사인데 왜 입이 물렸다가 아닌가? 생각했는데 하이 네이티브에서 물어보니까 둘 다 괜찮대요. So you're talking about, yeah, there are verbs that are, let me check if this is the one you're talking about. That would be a different topic I would like to do a video about someday. But there are some verbs that are used like that. So there are certain verbs. There are certain verbs. Actually, there's 2 things you'd have to learn about. One of them is there are a set of verbs that look the same as the causatives, and the passive verb look the exact same. They have the exact same form. 보이다 is a common one. That's a really common one because it could also mean to show. 보게 하다, to let someone see. 보이다. But 보이다 is more commonly used as 보여주다. So you don't really notice that. But 보이다, when it's used most of the time, is talking about the passive. But there are a bunch of verbs that can be the same form as their passive as their causative, and it looks the same. So you have to be aware about that. Then there are another type, which are actually passive verbs that are used as if they're action verbs in certain idiomatic expressions. That's a different topic that I would have to make a whole separate video about. And it's really advanced, so there aren't enough people who even ask about that. So it's interesting you would notice that. Most people don't even notice that. It's just something that I noticed a long time ago, but I haven't made a video about it yet. Yeah, Sunny Southpaw. Yeah, you don't know the half of it. I haven't even. There is more. I'm just not. I haven't said it. But the freezer was the biggest one, biggest shock, I'd say. Command strip hook and a magnet frame. Yes, if there is something I can use to put a magnet backing on the entire poster to make it solid, then yeah, that would work. But I'm not sure how I would do that because not all the posters are the same size. So how do you put a magnet backing? Like, is there something you buy that you like cut it out to match the shape, or like little thin strips, or how does that work? But I get what you're saying. I just put like the plates that they sell, and you just put like the magnet thing on the wall, and that only has one command strip or something. So it's, a little bit less worrisome if it doesn't come off because it's only in one spot. Frames you can change the posters in. Yeah, but I'd rather not do frames. I kind of like the feeling of the room being just a bit messy with posters stuck on the wall. And it's okay if they're not perfectly attached to the wall either. That's kind of the feel I want. But if they completely peel off, then that's not good. So I actually had to push them underneath 2 big heavy boards for 2 weeks before I filmed the podcast because they were all warped from having fallen off the wall while I was gone in Korea and then like bending in on themselves. People tape a paper clip to the wall and then magnet the poster to that. Okay. That's not it's interesting. I'm not quite sure how that would work for my posters. Japanese beginner course and Japanese made simple. Yeah, my Japanese, you'll get to hear actually my Japanese in the upcoming podcast episode. Like it's not that great, but I do tell people still I speak Japanese because I actually understand it pretty good. I mean, I can watch, except for like medical dramas, I can watch dramas and shows without subtitles, which is fine. I'm a fan of, I don't know if anyone else is, I'm a fan of Japanese horror movies sometimes. And a lot of those don't have subtitles, especially like TV special ones, like shorts. They like have like, short stories. None of those come with subtitles because they're not popular enough. They don't have distribution. They might be uploaded to YouTube or whatever. Watch those fine without subtitle. So that's when I would say, oh, my Japanese is pretty good listening, because it used to be at the intermediate level 20 years or so ago before I started studying Korean. But because I don't study any Japanese anymore, my speaking is like really down. But my listening is still a bit above where it used to be from back then. It's just my speaking is, I sound like a caveman. I can travel in Japan just fine. And if I speak softly and put my head down, they're going to think, oh, this foreigner speaks Japanese. Because I'm not actually, I'm not trying to make full sentences. It's just, excuse me, where is the bathroom? Excuse me, how much is this? Do you have another one of these? Basic travel stuff. But, yeah, so that's my Japanese. Japanese dramas aren't as popular as Korean ones, but they're better. They're more fun. At least the older ones are. I don't watch any recent Japanese dramas though, or I don't watch any Korean dramas, but I used to watch a ton, like tons of Japanese dramas. Like you name it, I've seen it. If it's anything prior to 2010, yeah. Even like later than that. Yeah, like 2011, 2012, 2013, because I was still trying to get back into Japanese before I started my YouTube channel. But yeah, like late 90s, mid 90s to late 90s, even some stuff in the 80s, but mostly like late 90s, all the way until early 2010s. I've seen it, like all the good stuff. And a bunch of bad stuff too. It's not that great. Sometimes it's like cheesy, but I like some of the cheesy shows. Yeah, I watched a lot, but I just never really got much into Korean dramas. I don't know. There's always such a strong romance side plot, or it's just the main focus of the drama that's not what I like for dramas. I want something more mysterious, or like, detectives, or something kind of cool going on, or like a guy with a superpower. I'm not so much into like, will they, won't they date? Like, of course they will. Why are you asking the question? Either they will, or the main character is going to pass away suddenly in the last episode. And then the bad guy who was the bad guy for the entire series, who the audience hates, is going to get a redemption arc in the last 10 minutes. And we're supposed to forgive them. You know what I'm talking about. It just bothers me. Liar Game, have I, you kidding me? Have I watched I've watched all the episodes and the movies, even the one that wasn't that great with the actress. Yes, I've watched them. And the Korean version, which I didn't like, but it had one cool game. The voting game I thought was kind of creative. Hated it, though, overall. But I really, really liked the last 5 minutes. I wish the show started with that last 5 minutes. Or like started with the last 20 minutes of that show and made a season starting from there, I would have loved it because that would have been like the Japanese one. But the Korean one just didn't have any of it. Didn't have any of that sauce. Gene. Oh, Gene is a classic. That is on my top 3 of all time. It might even be my top 1. Would be Gene. Season 1, season 2. You know, there's not too many dramas where they make a second season that actually successfully concludes a story that was like, how are they gonna finish this? Like lost levels of confusion, and then they actually cinch it up. If you're interested in Japanese dramas, anyone, Gene would be the number one show I would recommend you get into by watching. Fantastic. But no, for those of you asking for a Japanese book, it's never going to happen because I don't have time to study Japanese anymore. And I would take years to get myself back to where I was and at a level where I could teach basic Japanese. Although a lot of the knowledge will carry over from Korean because a lot of the concepts work in a similar way, but I would need years to do that. And I'm not even starting now. So no promises on that. Extraordinary Attorney Woo. I didn't watch that, but my grandmother said that she loved it. She also watched that. Magnetic poster hanger. Okay, I'm going to search this real quick while I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I just searched it. I'll look at it later. I see some photos. Billy, how could you keep your Japanese listening? That's because I also still would watch a lot of Japanese shows. Like I'll still keep up. I'll watch Japanese horror movies sometimes. I have some Japanese friends, but I don't speak to them that much anymore. But when I went to Japan the last time, it was also the whole time I'm speaking Japanese when I'm out and about, and you hear Japanese a lot. It was main reason is because I did so much listening and so much practice and studying when I was studying Japanese that it was too much for me to simply forget when I went over into Korean. Like if you are born in the US and you live in the US until you're a teenager, even if you go to Korea and live there for 50 years, you're still going to have a lot of basic, like even if you don't use it for 50, 60 years and your grandfather or grandmother, you're still going to have a percentage of that stuff you learned just because it was so much. That's kind of what my situation was. I just did so much studying during that 3-year period when I originally was studying, and then watched so many Japanese dramas when I was trying to go back into it that it's too much for my brain to just throw away. Yeah, Lost could not wrap up in a good way. Gene does. Say everything, it just like ties the bow on top of everything that you're like, there's no way they're going to explain this. There's no way it's going to make any sense. Makes sense. And it was cool. And you don't have to worry about that because the story, even if the ending was bad, the story is good enough. Music's great. I downloaded the soundtrack for it. One of the few shows I still keep the soundtrack for. 왕이 인사를 하면 konnichiwa. Yeah. That sounds like a Jin joke. That's easily a Jin joke right there. Did you enjoy Alice in Borderland? It was okay, but Alice became quite useless right away. I was happy in the early episodes where they started it, where Alice was like a really important character, because I like the show where the main character is really smart. It's kind of, you know what I'm talking about. It's like superhero show genre, but instead of being super powered, they're just really smart, but they also show you their thought process or they explain it. So I liked that, but then they made Alice useless. And then they would randomly kill characters like, whoops, this guy's dead. Like without a satisfying reason, which bugged me too. It was okay. And I feel like they didn't solve the show's ending very well. They didn't, it feels like if you watch the end of season 2, you can tell the writers themselves don't know how to end the story. By the interaction they have with the Queen of Hearts character, you can tell the writers don't really know what they want to do. So after I watched that scene, right at the end of the episode, I'm like, they don't know where they're going with this. They're just going to keep going with it. So yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was, but My sister-in-law learned Japanese since 7 or 8 years old, and she says there's still a lot to learn. Yeah, there's still, like I said, on a good day, at the time I would have been an intermediate level, but that's it. Like I never even touched the advanced level. I never did speeches or anything. It was all like conversational. Is it the show that takes place in the Edo period? Yes, it is. It's a brain surgeon that falls into a warp portal and gets transported back to the Edo period. But he's still himself. He doesn't have any of his tools or anything, but he's still a brain surgeon. He doesn't know what's going on or why it happened. And he's trying to survive in the Edo period. He's trying to get back to his regular life because he has a girlfriend and everything like that. He meets a girl who looks like his girlfriend, who he thinks is her ancestor or something like that. And he's like trying to help these people with medicine. It's really cool. It sounds like it would be like a boring drama, like historical drama. It's not a historical drama. It's more of like it's a drama with some action, with a little bit of comedy, especially when they meet the guy, you'll know. A little bit of romance, but it's not centered around romance ever. Awesome soundtrack, awesome theme. It's peak J-drama. Alice in Borderland is more dangerous than Squid Game. I don't think so, because the idea is that you're, I don't know. I don't know. Squid Game, everyone dies though, right? The last artist says, I see videos of me speaking Japanese with my friends. And I'm totally lost and wondering who the heck is that kid and where did that brain power go? But you'd still understand it, right? If you were speaking it, you'd still understand it if you were to watch a show. Especially like dramas and, stuff. They don't use like complicated Japanese. It's like very simple stuff like, do you think that Mr. Tanaka could have done this? I'm not sure. I think we should go to his office and find out. Yes. It's like, I feel like Japanese has a much smoother learning curve than Korean, where by that I mean you can get a lot done with a little in Japanese. You can learn how to introduce yourself, ask for directions, say things you're doing, basic descriptions, and you can get by like a lot of stuff. And people won't even really know because Japanese is just such a high context language, and their sentences can be very short in conversation. And then more is implied by that short sentence that you make. Whereas in Korean, it's also high context compared to English, but you have to say a lot more to get across what you want to say than in Japanese. So people really quickly will know your Korean ability if you say a short sentence. In Japanese, they'll think, oh, you're just saying a short sentence because, there's no need to say any more. You eat something, oh, oishii. Like, you're good. You could say, oh, 맛있어요. You're good too, but they might expect something else. They might expect a little bit of a description of something, or like, what do you like? Or, is not spicy or anything. But I feel like from what I felt is that you get by a lot more on less when you study Japanese, whereas you need way more Korean to effectively have basic conversations. And in Japanese, you could learn basic conversations, and now you can introduce yourself. Good job. Like, go ahead, introduce yourself. Can't say much more, but you can introduce yourself. Whereas in Korean, like, you can't even introduce yourself until you've learned like all of these things. It just feels like it starts you out like climbing up a cliff with Korean. The poster safe version of glue dots. Okay. Sue Amazing says, if I was in the Edo period, what would I do? I'd probably take a boat over to Korea so that I can actually understand and speak. Because I'm not going to understand Edo period Japanese. I mean, I don't think so, because even if I might get a lot of the things they're saying, I'm not going to know how to say anything. That's going to be really tough. Yeah, I would probably just take a boat over to Korea. I'm like, oh, let's go to Korea. That'd be really cool. Use some of my Korean. Evolving Brain said, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's fake. It's a clickbait. Because Korean is likely not undergoing tonogenesis. That is something I read. I saw someone on Instagram, I think it was, made a video talking about how Korean was undergoing tonogenesis because when you use strong consonants or double consonants at the beginning of a word, the tone is higher. And that is true in Seoul dialect. And it's not necessary. It's not something that you have to do. And it's not something that affects your understanding. And it's not something that everyone does. So that's why I disagree with the concept. It feels like they found something online, an article about it, and said, oh, did you know? Like, it kind of feels like they're just copy pasting, not that they did any research. Because I've done a video about that actually myself in my Korean FAQ video. I talk about that concept, how it happens, and how you can use it to your advantage. And then I also talk about specifically tonogenesis at the end of that video. Korean used to have tones, and then they went away, mostly, but they still, to say Korean is undergoing tonogenesis would be incorrect because it already had tones and they didn't all go away. So if tones in Korean, tone usage in Korean is like this, and they stop, here's 0, and they're stopped right here, do you say, oh, it's getting tones? Like, you don't know. It might be, you don't know what direction it's going. It could keep going down, or maybe it comes back up, but there's no evidence to say that it's going back up because there's no increase, which would be the definition of tonogenesis, becoming tonal. Those tones already were there and preserved in other dialects, just not Seoul dialect, but now in Seoul dialect you can hear them. So does that mean they're coming back? In Seoul dialect with younger speakers? Maybe, but it's not a requirement. So I don't think so. At least it's not enough evidence to say it is what I'll say. If it does, if there's something else like, oh, now everyone will only understand you if you say this, and if you say it this way, they'll think you mean this. If it were that case where if you say it with the increased emphasis at the beginning and you didn't, and they had different meanings, then I would say, yeah, that's some evidence, but it's not that way. You can say it with or without, like boss for bus. Boss is a double consonant when you pronounce it. Boss. Most people will say in Seoul, boss with a higher tone, or like keyboard for keyboard. But you could say boss, and it's fine. No one's going to misunderstand you. Keyboard, totally fine. Keyboard is more common, but keyboard is fine. So if it doesn't affect understanding and there's not a different meaning of boss and boss, then no, it's not requirement for the language. So yeah, I did see at least one video. I'm not sure if that's the one you're referring to. I did see one video mentioning it, and that was my reaction to it, was like, don't claim it's tonogenesis. This is something that already is in Korean. Wouldn't the Korean spoken back then be different? Yeah. And I wouldn't know what it's like, because if you watch Korean historical dramas, they're not actually using real historical Korean, because you wouldn't understand that. The same way that when they do like dramas or movies that are set in like the year 1100 or 1500, they're not actually using that type of English, right? Like when you watch Monty Python, isn't that supposed to be like 935 or something AD? They don't actually talk like that, even though they're using British accents. That's of course a joke, because they're not supposed to be. But if you do that actual type of language, your audience isn't going to understand it. So they just do a slightly older, like they'll do older pronunciation. They'll throw in some older words and expressions now and then. But yeah, I don't know how they would talk, actually. It'd probably be very different. Would I understand it? Probably most of it, because it's still Korean. But no, I'm sure I would have trouble with a lot of the words. Like I wouldn't know what they're talking about, because they'd have different names. Like, what do they call the bathroom? Do they just call it like jikan? Like, I know that's an older word for like an outhouse. What would they call it? I don't know. Do they just call it like a hole? Do they use a different expression entirely? Like, it might be rude to ask, where's the outhouse? They might say, oh, I need to take a break. I don't know what they would say. Have you noticed Korean speakers carrying over relatively lower context speech into English? No, I think they're aware that, because they're aware of our usage of lower context English. Like they use the word 그, like no, 당신 a lot for you. They know these words that we use them in English. And when they try to speak, if a Korean person knows they're speaking with a foreigner, especially a younger person, like younger than 30s, and younger than 40s, definitely, younger than 40s, but definitely younger than 30s, they will not speak to you as a foreigner the same way they would speak Korean to a Korean. They know that you're not going to understand them completely. At least they think that. They're going to add in a lot of those low context things, and they're going to make their sentences longer in Korean because they want it to be easier for you to understand it as a non-native speaker. They do that in English too. They're aware that we say like who is doing it for everything, who is doing what to what, or who, like they add in all those things. It's like in English, hey, did you have any lunch yet? Did you eat yet? In Korean, it's just 먹었어? Eat, past. They know that you should say did you with the you, and then eat, it, or lunch, or whatever the object is. So I would say no, it's not going to carry over. An older speaker trying to translate in English might, but that's simply because in the older days, they didn't promote English education as strong as they do today. So they wouldn't have had that education. Oh, Lola says you saw several videos like that. Okay, I've only seen one that was by a Instagram account that was talking about linguistics. And the funny thing is, like, if I watch this stuff as a language learner and I don't know much Korean, or I'm trying to learn Korean, I'm going to just say, wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that. But as someone who specializes, like Korean's my life, that stuff stands out really easily. Like I can see it, like, no, like maybe, but we can't say it's like for tonogenesis. I can't say it's undergoing tonogenesis because one, I'm not a linguist, but two, I've read what the linguists have said on it. And they say there's not enough evidence to say it is, though it might be, but we can't say it is. And then if an account says it is, then it's like, well, no, you can present this and say, hey, isn't this interesting? But then you shouldn't go and say, well, that's proof that it's, undergoing tonogenesis. But it's not just that account. So I don't know if that person, I don't have anything against them, and I actually don't remember what they look like anymore. But it kind of reminds me of like ChatGPT sort of thing. Like if you ask ChatGPT or any AI a question about Korean, it's going to give you an answer that just seems so logically correct. Like that makes perfect sense. Wow, that's incredible. Unless you are a specialist in that topic, like if I ask it something about Korean, I can ask it about Korean etymology. In fact, I did for the etymology lesson that I'm making in the upcoming podcast episode. After I wrote the lesson, I didn't send it to ChatGPT because I don't want it to have my lesson. But I asked it the same question I initially had about the topic I did to see if I'm missing anything. And it's like confidently makes up a page of information about the topic I'm asking that looked really good. Unfortunately, it was 100% wrong. All the topics I had asked it, all of them were made up. I was just checking to see if I'm missing anything. Sometimes it'll actually come up with interesting tidbits here and there. In that case, 100% wrong. But if I didn't already know that topic from having just finished researching it for like 5 hours, I wouldn't have known. I mean, I still would know it was a Korean teacher, but like if I was a Korean learner, I wouldn't even know. I would think, oh, wow, that's interesting. Wow, interesting. Cool, thanks. Because I'm specialized in that, it's easy to find when it makes mistakes. But if you're not, and you ask artificial intelligence, you don't know what stuff it's real and it's stuff it's making up. And I'm thinking, if it's that wrong about something I'm specialized in, how correct is it about stuff that I'm not specialized in? Like if I ask it a question about, say if I were to ask it a Japanese question, it's probably going to come up with a really nice response. But can I trust that? My Japanese is not at the level that I could analyze that. My Korean is, though. If I ask it about a question for like, construction or something I don't know about, electricity or anything, like how can I trust it if when I ask it questions about something that I know really well, it's often wrong. More than not, it makes up stuff. More than 50% of the time. So is it doing that with other topics too? Is kind of what I'm thinking. Like, probably yes. But I'm not going to know unless I'm specialized in that topic. What's the etymology of chi and chi anta? I've actually thought about that before, and I don't know. But it does appear in a lot of different forms. It is related to, it's related directly to, let me try to see if I can explain this. Because it's not only chi anta. So I can talk a little bit about it. What I do know is the anta part. The ji part appears in many forms in Korean as a wait, I'm not finished sort of usage. Like it's the sentence is not over, but like something's coming up right after this. And it's used in other forms as well. But the anta part is actually anhada. And that can be anhada, the action verb, to not do, but it's also anhada or anihada, if you want to think about, technically it's actually anihada, if you want to look at the actual etymology of it. But this is what we would say is anhada. Because originally it's from anihada, which was one word, to not be. So it's either anhada, to do, or to not be. Hada is also to be when it's a descriptive verb. But basically it's this, here, got stuck on here. And then you're left with, because that's here is already here, it's double, it doesn't need it. And you're left with anta. So that's that origin. But yeah, the G part, besides telling you it's a part of grammar forms and it's used for connecting grammar forms with verbs, I don't know. I can tell you it's not G from hanja, because there are a couple of G's. There's a G that means 의, possessive. There's a possessive G, which you'll see it in like 세용지마, like hanja idioms and stuff will have G in them. There's also a G for since doing something, like han G with a space. That one, I'm not sure the origin of that either. But then there is a G, which you'll know is like 하는지, 없는지, 갔는지, 좋아하는지. There's that G which is connected to the verb stem directly. This one likely comes from the hanja G, which means knowledge. But I haven't looked this up yet. I haven't done a lesson about that. So I'm just going to say that's my guess, because it always is used about some sort of unknown piece of information. My guess is that it's related to that, but it also might not be. It also might be something completely different. It might just be a homophone with that. And then there's another T, which is used for, you'll see it in like yaji. But this is not the yaji, like you have to do something yaji. It's emphasis on the ya form, like only if, and I'm going to say something else. But yeah, I don't know where it came from. You could search for that though. And in the next podcast episode, I'll actually tell you how you can look it up yourself. But if enough people are curious, I could look into it. Never thought about that one. Do you have recommendations for when I'm finished with your Korean Simple 3? Okay. Oh, you're going to Seoul. Okay. Yeah, after my Korean Made Simple books, I would go straight into native level materials, honestly. So I actually have a native level material course. The conversation course is 100% like not filtered, just 100% native, actually native conversations. Like not, again, they're not pruned. It's not filtered for a course. It's not like, what did you do today? I had a wonderful day. How about you, Mr. Smith? It's not like that. It's like, is this the right spot for the bike meetup? I don't know. I was just like trying to find it. You know, like that type of sentence, which is very natural and not filtered. It's the whole thing. All of the conversations are like that, but it's not too high level. So the only filtering is just that it's not using like crazy advanced formal grammar. It's more like natural speech. Conversation course, besides that, the reading book, the second reading book especially, is short stories. And those are also, they're not native level, but those are more intermediate level, I would say. So those two things, so either the conversation book or the Korean Reading Made Simple 2 would probably be appropriate. The conversation course also has a free YouTube course you could watch instead if you don't want to get the book. The book just has 5 extra conversations, but the material's the same with the book besides that. Okay, but what things can you use AI for when using it for Korean? Yeah, I mean, I am like overall, I'm like an anti-AI kind of guy, but not at the same time, while I know it's not good for everything, like, you know, you drink a lake every single time you ask it like 1 + 1. At the same time, it can be a useful tool in some cases. If you're a brand new beginner and you just want some basic conversation practice, and you don't really care that the person you're speaking with is a native or not. Like if you're just talking conversation practice with your buddy who's also learning Korean, that kind of thing, it's perfect for that. Like, hey, can I practice my Korean? Like, 반갑습니다. And then it'll reply to you. And that kind of stuff. Just don't have it teach you stuff, because every single time I've seen it try to teach stuff, there will be little mistakes in it here and there, or completely wrong. If you ask it etymology, it just makes stuff up. But really basic conversation where it's not going to be completely natural is okay. But if you ask it, hey, make a completely natural conversation, 100% natural, I'm telling you, it's not. It's not natural. It can't do that. I don't know what's up, but it does not have a good Korean database yet. It can't do it. It's very awkward. So, but for that sort of thing, you just need a conversation partner, and you're lower level, you're still beginner. You can't have full conversations yet. Go ahead. I think it's fine. If you ask it questions though, you have to check them. Check it with a Korean if you really need to know. If it's something you absolutely cannot find on the internet, like an etymology question, ask. Don't just take its word for anything in Korean. If you say, hey, give me example sentences, check those. It makes awkward example sentences a lot. And I've actually read many people on the internet defend it and say, it would never do that. Oh, that's impossible. It could never give you. It does it all the time, I swear. It makes the most basic mistakes. I try to post some of them that I see or people send me on YouTube whenever there's something kind of funny. But yeah, it makes a lot of mistakes, so don't trust it, but it's still fine for basic conversation practice. It's recommended that your channel is a great, yeah, I'm sure it does, because I've been around for a long time and a lot of people recommend me. So it just sees those and is like, oh, let's recommend Go Billy. But besides that, Broken Clock is still right twice a day. Billy, since you got to the intermediate level and can listen to Japanese, I should stop the stream at 4 o'clock. So that's in 4 minutes. Just letting you know. I'll take another couple questions. Then I got to go and I have to edit this video for today so I can upload it to my channel for all my wonderful members. Thank you. Can you do the same at the intermediate level Korean too? What do you mean? Can I watch Korean? I'm not sure what you're asking, Sue Amazing. Can I watch Korean shows without subtitles? I could do that 20 years ago. Yeah, evolving brain. I would need to look into it more, because I don't want to be like AI and just make up something and present it as fact. So even what I'm telling you is like, I think from what I've seen of it, but I would need to look into it. And some stuff, the problem is there just isn't any information about it, because there is very, very little information about Korean, how it was spoken prior to the 1400s, when we had the invention of, 15, I guess, technically, when we had the invention of Hangul. And then prior to 1400s-ish, there's some books. And then there's some, words here and there from a book from 1100. Like there's some stuff here and there, but there's not a lot of stuff we can look up for Korean more than like 600 years ago. So that's kind of a problem. And you'll look back there and you'll see it's still chi. Well, and now what? So that's kind of the problem. But if you see it used in a lot of forms, you can kind of make an educated guess. Like, oh, well, it's used in all of these forms in the same usage. It probably had this sort of meaning. I don't know. Like from the word 지혜. Yeah, that same 지혜. 지혜, 지식, 지성. Yeah, Keith, that's the thing. I see it as a tool as well. I'm on the same page. While I dislike its environmental effects, at the same time, it's a tool. Like the big machines that chop down the rainforest are horrible, but they're still a tool, right? Can you turn that machine into like making you a smoothie? Like, is there a use for it? Yeah, but just know about its limitations. I think there's the AI tech bro image that goes in my mind of the person who defends it at all costs. Like, oh, it gave you the wrong answer. It's because you were using the pro version. Got to use the pro version. I have access to the pro version, but you were using the wrong model. It just updated. It's 10 times faster, guaranteed. Okay, it's the same thing. No, it never gave you that answer. You must have tricked it. Like, they'll go to these lengths to defend without knowing how the tool works. And I've watch some videos. You know, I know enough to be dangerous about how AI works. It's not going to know what it doesn't have input for. And if there are so many incorrect things about Korean online from people teaching it over the years, and little typos and incorrect stuff in books, then wouldn't it make sense that those will eventually get filtered to the AI? And when it doesn't have knowledge of something, how is it going to figure it out? Like, it's not thinking, it's just a glorified text predictor. So I don't know. Unless they make a new generation of it that works in a different way, I don't ever see this getting any better. I'd actually like to do a video about AI in detail. I have a podcast outline and a bunch of examples as well of what I'd like to talk about. Maybe in the future, I'd like to do that. Yeah, a lot of articles are AI generated. You can usually tell though, like perfect formatting, but I can also tell by the sentences, because sometimes people will post AI generated stuff, but they'll say they checked it, right? So that makes it okay because they checked it, right? Except all the sentences are the same sentences you would get if you asked the same question to ChatGPT. Hey, generate me some example sentences for my lesson. Like word for word or same format for same format in the same order. It's not creative. You could tell by reading the sentences like, oh, an AI generated this. Like human might say this, but this isn't the type of sentence you'll get in a book when it's trying to illustrate exactly how a form is used. It'll just give you a sentence using that form, which is not how we as teachers like to teach. Like if I'm teaching you the ji anta form, I'm not going to give you a full sentence, even a beginner level sentence using that form, because you can't focus on the form I'm trying to teach. I'll give that to you later in the lesson. Like, hey, now that we've mastered it, here's a sentence using it. But when you're first teaching it, it's just an heyo, an kayo, haji anayo, right? Because you want to focus on it. AI can't do that. It doesn't understand that this is how you should teach. It only knows, like, this is what probably should go next in the lesson because I've read these conversations in Korean and this uses the form. So let me do this. Here you go. Like, it doesn't have a brain to think as a teacher who would know, let's start it off with the basics and then go into this and then go into this. Anyway. Oh, Evolving Brain. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you are interested in etymology, I have several ideas for etymology lessons that I'd like. Evolving Brain, I swear, I started writing your name and immediately wrote etymology. It's now Etymology Brain. Etymology Brain. Yeah, I'm really interested in etymology, but I haven't made lessons about it yet because it takes 5 or 6 hours to do a short 5-minute lesson about a topic, because there aren't very many resources that talk about etymology that actually talk about the reasons for it or go in depth. And that's what I would want to do. Not like, I'll spoil for you, the upcoming podcast is the words for fish in Korean. But if you search for the words for fish in Korean, you'll find some basic lessons about it. Like, oh, this word means this, but originally it meant that. That's not what I wanted to do. You'll see when you watch the full episode, but it's a full etymology breakdown of where the words came from and why they mean what they mean today. But that sort of stuff takes a lot of time to research and then fact check. Because again, it's research. You can't find a lesson or you can't just search in the dictionary and copy it over. You have to go out and compare a bunch of stuff and find sources and put it together and think about it and check it like that. Would you say any of your videos are outdated? Yeah, I mean, the early lessons that I did, the first Learn Korean lessons I have with KiCat, I wouldn't say they're outdated, but they're too simplistic because at the time I made them, there were literally no lessons for Korean on YouTube, like actually teaching Korean. There were some lessons that would teach expressions like words and videos about culture, like funny culture videos. Did you know about fan death? Like that sort of stuff. But there weren't any lessons. So at the time, the bar was really low. If I literally just make a lesson about here's how to conjugate the verb, that's good enough. That's more than existed before. And that was my goal. I'm like, let me just do something let's just start to do something. Nowadays though, since anyone can do that, there are tons of classes now. nowadays I would go further. I'm like, okay, well, what can I give my audience that actually is helpful? That's why I do these live streams. That's why they're so long. How can I actually help my audience? What would they actually want to know? Not just here's how to do it, but like here's why and here's the differences. So in that way, I'd say the old videos I made on the channel are outdated. Also, the first videos that explain the usage of she for calling another person is outdated because that changed, I would say, within the last 10 years. Yeah, within the last 10 years, the usage of she and 님, not swapped, but she got bumped out in that it's still used. You still have to know it, but now you also need to know 님, and 님 is more common. So that would be an outdated thing. Korean age is in some ways outdated, although I did update it in my book, so it's not like the books are now outdated for using it. But when you ask a person's age, it's now more common not to ask 나이가 어떻게 되세요? Instead, it's more common to ask what year were you born? 몇 년생이세요? So that's also another recent change, that it became more common to ask a person's age by their year they were born, and then more common to reply your age, except when you're doing a self-introduction. It's more common to reply your age by just saying the year, the last two digits of the year that you were born. So like I would say 저는 86이에요 because I was born in 86. So I just say 86, 86, or 86년생이에요. I was born in 1986, or just 전 86이요. I'm 86. I'm an 86er, like that. So that would also be a thing that's changed. So if I have an older video talking about how to ask your age, technically it would be out of date because of that, but it's not wrong to say, how old are you? 나이가 어떻게 되세요? Or like, I am, I'm 30 or I'm 40 or whatever like that. It's just less common, as well as 님 and she. Besides that though, not really. Korean does change a bit with how it's used, but the changes aren't dramatic enough for the beginner level. A lot of the changes that Korean goes through are more for intermediate and advanced. So beginner level is still mostly the same. Like, you can say whatever you want as a beginner as long as it's polite. But then when you get to the intermediate and advanced level, especially, that's when you really need to stay up to date with how Korean is changing. How fluent are you in Korean? I have been studying Korean now for over 20 years, and I speak only Korean when I'm in Korea, except when I'm talking with my kid, which is like half and half, or a friend that speaks English, or these live streams, which are entirely in English. So yeah, no problem. I feel comfortable in either language. Although, of course, English is always my better language. Regular Koreans don't know. Tried to bother. Yeah. What's the rule on which verb to use an and 지 않다? That was during the class, but basically 지 않다 has more contrast. And you don't use an with the verbs 이다, 없다, and 알다. Yeah, there's so many Korean teaching channels. When I first started my channel, there were like 5. Not kidding, 5. Because I counted them. There were like 5 that were active. And some of them weren't even teaching. It was just like teaching a phrase here or there. And then when I made my first video recommending other channels in 2015, I think there were like 10 or 11 that were active. And then during COVID, especially during COVID, it shot up from like a few dozen to hundreds within a year. And the most recent video I did for recommending Korean podcasts, also there was like over 100 I could choose of just podcasts. And channels, there are hundreds now. So in 2022, I think it was or maybe it was early 2023 or early 2022, I did a video where I recommended 20 YouTube learning channels. And at that time, I went through the entire list, all of the YouTubers that were teaching Korean. I actually looked through every single one. I'm subscribed to most of them, and picked out from a list of, I think it was like 150 or 200 active channels that were actively posting like every week or every 2 weeks. And then hundreds more that were posting too rarely for me to recommend. Yeah, there are thousands now. And that's not including Instagram or TikTok or anything else. It's just YouTube. I'm a year older than you. Nice. Are you 85? Do you think Korean tends to change more than English? No, I don't know how you would compare that, but I think Korean does slowly evolve. Like if you're talking about slang words, Korean gets those too. The problem is if you learn slang words in the year that they come out, you might not end up needing that because a lot of slang gets outdated quickly. So be careful when you learn slang, because sometimes the slang, like I see sometimes Instagram Korean teachers, no shade to them, they're just trying to keep you up to date. But they'll present a slang word to you, like, hey, this is a new slang word. Koreans use it. Totally, they're telling the truth. It's good. The learner, though, needs to know, on top of that, that this slang word might or might not still be used 3 months from now. And a lot of times they're not. So I'll watch, sometimes Instagram will recommend me these videos like 6 months ago. Hey, you should use this Korean word. It's really popular and everyone's using it now. Like a real example is aa. Or da'a. Da'a might be a bit. So like da'a. Oh, sorry. Typo. This was like 따뜻한 Americano. So like a hot Americano. Coffee. Or like 얼추가. I think this was like something 죽어도 Americano or ice Americano or something like that. Like I'm going to have an Americano even if I die. I can't remember what the first one was for, but like these sorts of like shortened expressions I remember seeing on the internet used a lot several years ago died out, and you would not be caught dead seeing them used anymore. I think though people still use, I think I still see though sometimes, but there were like a whole list of expressions that I remember the channel was teaching, and like those are all dead. No one uses them. But there will be like these shortened words. Especially be cautious if you see a slang word that is a shortened version of another word. Those are the ones that die really quick. The shortened one. Why? Because you don't need them. You could have just said the full expression. You could have just said the original word. Like, why do I need to say this instead of just saying the word that it's based on? It doesn't add any new meaning. The ones that tend to stick around are ones that give a new meaning that you couldn't express otherwise. Like the expression TMI, too much information. Well, this one came from English, but in Korean it's adapted. They don't use this for embarrassing, gross tidbits of information like we do in English. In Korean, it's just, that's too much. Like, it's too much. You don't want to know. I'm oversharing is what they say. This is a bit of oversharing. I'm telling you too much. That's how they use TMI in Korean. But in English, we use it for embarrassing. Like, yeah, okay. It's like if I tell you that my packets of fajita expanded to be like a plastic dollar store balloon, that's TMI. It's like, oh, okay. I didn't know chicken was a liquid. That's TMI. Man, I have like 3 appointments later today, and then I'm going to be meeting my friend, and we're going to have a drink together. That's TMI. Like in Korean, the way they use it is a little bit different because it's just for regular, too much information. So sometimes things that didn't exist in Korean can stick around because they're useful. But the expressions that are just kind of funny, like if it's just funny but doesn't seem to be especially useful, you can know it's probably not going to last a few months. Okay, I think that's enough for today. Yeah, 굿밤. It's funny. Same with like 좋은 아침 was the same sort of idea. 좋은 아침, literally good idea, good morning. 좋은, good, 아침, morning. 좋은 아침입니다. Like you might hear that. It's funny because it's an outdated expression. It's not wrong, but same with 굿밤. Like 굿밤, like hey, goodnighters, goodnightos, nightly-dee-doo. Like it kind of has that feeling to it. Like it's an expression, people know it, but they don't use it anymore because it sounds cringy. And there was no reason to use it. That's why. It's like, why do you need to say 굿밤? Just say, good night. Have a good night, or 잘 자요, or whatever. They already had a lot of other expressions that can sound cutesy as well, so they didn't really need these extra ones. So I think that's kind of like an easy litmus test if you see a new expression. If it's a shortening of a thing that already exists, but doesn't add any significant change to the meaning, it just sounds cute, it's gonna die. It's not gonna make it. Just let it go. Put it out of its misery. Write it down, be like, if someone uses it, but don't like try to use it yourself, because unless you're using it like right now, like while it's still active, Otherwise, it's going to sound outdated. Those are the ones that go away really quick. And there are tons of those. Same with like trends. Food trends in Korea usually don't go more than like 6 months. And if it does stick around for a year, it's not a trend. And you can go ahead and use it and learn it like that. So I try not to explain that. I try not to teach those types of things for that reason, just because I know they're going to be outdated really quick. I lost my voice. No, actually what happened, Evolving Brain, is I got a cold. So this was 2 weeks ago, over 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago when I came back from Korea. I actually got a cold. I don't know if it was from the flight or just from whatever, something else, maybe someone I met before the flight. And the cold never went away. It's like the cold mostly did, but I still have like a cough from the cold that I had from over 2 weeks ago. So that's all it is. I didn't lose my voice. My voice is fine. It's just a cold. So yeah. Or maybe I got the cold from breathing the air when I opened the freezer. Oh my God. Rotting meat, I swear. I smelled rotting meat before I even opened the freezer. Like as soon as I was walking in the garage and the flies told me like, hey, there's something wrong here, I could smell it already. And it was, I won't say it, but it's bad. It smells like something that comes out of your throat. And I opened the freezer to check. I almost vomited. Like instantly when I opened it, I was like, I'm dead. I'm vomiting. I held it in because I'm like, I don't want to add more cleanup work to this that I knew I would have to deal with. But yeah, there's a really gross story I want to share with you guys, but I'm not going to. Just use your imagination of me taking all the stuff out, putting it into a big, one of those big, thick, heavy-duty black trash bags and carrying it to the dumpster, like 200, 300 feet to the dumpster. And then imagine that it's filled with 50 pounds of food. And I did this twice. And then imagine that the second time I do that, the bag rips. And that's all I'm going to say. Have a nice day. That is the lesson. Thank you for everything. Thank you for those who donated. I'll leave your names up until next week. Thank you to Sunny Southpaw, Glass Artist, Ad Astra, and Etymology Brain today. And I'll see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.